Hello, everyone. This is Dr. D here. Who's on the line? Hey, Tiella, can you hear me? Tiella? Hey, Tiella, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Tiella? Hello, welcome to this live stream. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hi, welcome. We're just taking a few moments to wait for a few more people to log on in, and then we'll get going. But can I ask who's on the call?
Tiella.
Oh, Tiella, you can hear me. Okay, so did you call in? So you called in and you're on the computer.
I'm trying to figure out how to just be on the computer.
Oh, okay. You can just, that's interesting. You should be able to just click the link. Let me see if there's a way you can, if you click the link to actually join the meeting, you can do it that way. or you can be on the phone. But basically, let me see if I can find the link so you can just come on into it. 1 second. Let us see. Is that your number, a 404 number?
No, mine is 857.
Oh, okay. So that's another person that just, okay, I see. Hello there. Did you just stream in 404?
I called in. This is Shannon.
Hey, Shannon, welcome. We're just waiting a few moments to come on in for other people. So Tiela, you're all set then. That means that you came in fine. So some people actually called in, some people came in through their phones, so no problem. But we're just gonna wait for a few more people that signed up to come on in. And welcome to the Upgrade My Life webinar. Shannon, I haven't talked to you in so long.
I know. I'm excited to be on the call today.
Oh, thank you. And I really wish, well, you know what? I'm actually also sharing screens. So if you can't see it, just know that it's being recorded and you will be able to see the link. So you'll be like, what is she talking about? I'm so glad that you came on. Welcome. Hey, LGX Power. Thank you for coming on in. Did you call in or are you videoing? Are you zooming in through video? Okay, they're trying. Oh, I muted them. Sorry, guys. Sometimes I forget that I have muted some. Okay, LGX Power, can you hear me? Okay, so so there are a lot of you that have zoomed in. There are a lot of you that are either calling in. If you can, and there are those of you who can actually see me. We're gonna wait a few more moments before we get started, but I'm so excited. I don't care if there's 2 people on the call. You are in for a treat today because I know that so many women that I work with in my business, they are really ready to go and grow in their life, in their personal goals. So, hey, LGX, can you hear me? And you guys just have to be patient with me as I'm talking and making sure people can get on because, you know, a lot of people have signed up and I want to make sure everyone can hear. So give me one moment. Let's see. I know she sees me and let's see here. Can you hear me? So the way that this works is if you actually, if you called in, then this is being recorded and you'll be able to actually, see the screens that I'll be talking about today. But if anything, hopefully you've got a notebook handy. Hopefully you are ready to go. This whole session is going to probably take us about an hour or so, and then I usually leave room for plenty of questions. If there are fewer people, then I can take more questions. If there's a lot more, obviously, I just go as we go. And then lastly, if you have logged in, there's a chat box at the bottom where you can post your questions and things like that in case you have any questions. So I'm just gonna wait for one more moment and then we will jump right in. Also, let me just give me 1 second and let me just make sure that she can hear me. And yes, and if you want to mute yourself, you more than likely can so that we don't hear all the background noise. So you can easily mute yourself, and I actually will probably mute some of you guys. And then at the end, we will be able to hear your questions. So we're gonna jump right on in. Well, first of all, I wanna thank you guys for taking the time to be a part of the Upgrade My Life webinar. If you don't know who I am, my name is Dr. Allana DA Graca. Many people just call me Allana. And I am the president and founder of Turning on the Lights Global Institute. And Turning on the Lights Global Institute really was a company or my baby that I formed because I realized that a lot of times people have dreams, ideas, or even they've worked in an industry for a long time. And then somehow along the way, you know, they feel like they're stuck or they're stagnant or they're just in a place where they really need to grow. So, so when I thought about Turning on the Lights, I thought, oh my goodness, one of the targets that I have is to really, you know, help women to think bigger and bolder about who they can become. And a lot of times as women, you know, we are so committed to everyone else, to our jobs, to our academic careers, to everything that we're doing, that we sometimes forget to kind of pause and take a look at where we really presently are at. So, so that's why I created the Upgrade My Life webinar, because, you know, in all of my teaching in the last 17 years, I've met women on a plethora of levels who have said to me, you know what, I know I need to grow. I know I need to change. I'm always the one encouraging other people, but what do I do for myself? And so Upgrade My Life, when I came up with that title, it made me think of a time when I was flying abroad. And welcome to this live stream for those of you who just streamed in. So we're just jumping right on in. So when I thought about the title Upgrade My Life, it really made me think about, you know, being in a seated position on an airplane when you really want to feel comfortable, and then saying, you know what, I really need to grow because this isn't working for me. What can I do? So, so I created the Upgrade My Life webinar to help individuals think bigger about their goals. So the question would be, well, why, you know, why do we need to upgrade where we are presently in our given lives? Why is that something that is so important for us to consider? You know, a lot of times when we think about it, there are really thousands of women who unfortunately are not happy with where they are in life. They are basically at a place where they're either in relationships that need to be, you know, they need to analyze, they're in jobs that they need to kind of look at and say to themselves, how much more time am I going to spend here? Or you're enrolled in academic programs because you're trying to grow in your given arena. So if you're looking at the screen that I have, then you can see this image of this woman. She's like looking like, what does it all mean? Why do I need to upgrade my life? Well, you know what? In a lot of the speaking engagements I have been giving across our country and with hundreds of individuals, one of the things I always say is that the worst pill that anyone could swallow is the pill of resentment. And resentment is the worst pill because a lot of us have real tangible goals that we would like to see ourselves reach. But then with time, we keep throwing those goals away and saying, oh, I'll get to this particular goal today or tomorrow. And they just keep putting it off because the goals aren't specific enough to where they really want to be. And as I'm chatting, you can kind of put your aha, that's for me, or heart or comment if what I'm saying rings a bell. But you know what? Change has to happen at the heart level. And in my research of persistence, or the research really thinking about what makes people go from point A to point B, we recognize that when people have, or an individual has, intrinsic motivation, that's the motivation that one needs to actually move forward in their given goals. When you have that, that will help you to really concretize your goals. So sometimes people look at motivation from an extrinsic perspective, meaning that they'll say, oh, well, maybe I'll be more productive if I had the right person in my corner, or if these people spoke more positively in my life, I would have reached my goal. But I think that true change can only happen at the gut level. So that means you really have to be at a place where you're like, you know what? I really need a change of heart. I really need something that is for me. So so you know what? I do want to thank you all for kind of taking that time to say, you know what? This is really for me. I needed this. I needed this moment, because a lot of times individuals kind of say, well, you know, I know this is for me, but, you know, I don't have enough time to focus on me. So I really want to thank you that you've taken this time to tune in, and also let you know that if you're not a part of my Instagram feed, I do a lot of live streams, and we've had at least 330 people that have come in to capture some of these nuggets. But today's webinar, I'm going to actually give you some real strategies to move forward. So save all your questions for the end of our stream tonight. I would love to answer them, especially since this is your time. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is this idea of how to show up for yourself. show up for yourself. Like sometimes when we think about personal development, a lot of times people don't know what I mean by that. So I always say, well, you know what? It's so funny how we wake up at, 6:30 in the morning, we get ready for work, we do everything for our families. And then when it comes to showing up for ourselves, it's like, oh my goodness, I just don't have time. But really, here are my first 4 tips I want to give you for today. The first way to show up for self is to master your investment of time. Did you know that according to statistics, there are at least 22 hours of unaccounted time that individuals actually don't give account for? So a lot of times if you take away the 40 hours that you have for work a week, then you look at and you actually tally how much time you spend watching television, how much time you spend talking to friends that aren't necessarily helping you towards your goals, how much time you might spend sleeping a little later on the weekends. You would be really shocked at how much time you actually have. Point number 2, determine your inner circle. So in the last 3 weeks, I've been talking on my live streams about how we don't realize that the people we hang around have a direct influence on whether we are able to reach our goals. And there's a lot of talk that says, hey, if you look at where your life is right now and look at the 5 people you spend time with, you probably are representative of the average people that you hang around. So if you're ready to grow and you want to grow in a given area, you have to think, well, who do I have in my inner circle? Who's speaking to me? Who do I take advice from? Who's draining me? Who's supporting me? And all of that, because all of that plays a major role as to whether you feel comfortable to stay where you're at, which is usually stagnant. When women come to me, they're like, I'm just stuck. I don't know what to do. So if that's you and you're like, oh my gosh, I do need to determine my inner circle, then you'll want to hang on for my tips to how to think about that further. But number 3, you also want to make a decision to value your time. Make a bold decision to value your time. That literally means account for every single hour that you spend every single week to see where your time is going. You know what? A lot of times people, yes, it's not just money that makes us happy, right? But we have to think about, where do we spend our time with? Who are we giving our attention to? And maybe who do we need to pause giving our attention to so we can give more attention and me time to ourselves? Now, a lot of times I'll talk to mothers or I'll talk to people who have demanding schedules and they'll say, oh, I just don't know where to find the time. But we all find the time to use the bathroom, don't we? I know that's funny, but we do. We make time for the things that we urgently have to do. So hopefully you have a certain area in your life, you're like, no, this is my goal. I'm so committed to it. I am passionate about it, and I'm willing to honor my time. And obviously, number 4, you got to begin to say no. Like, we can't say yes to everyone because we want them to always, be happy with us. Sometimes, in order for you to say yes to yourself, you simply have to say no. Now, if you're not watching this screen, the next screen here is a screen of some women notable individuals. Like we have Oprah Winfrey, right? She dared to dream. Now, a lot of times people might look at Oprah Winfrey and say, oh, I love Oprah because she's so positive and so inspiring. And that is very true. But a lot of times people don't look at her backstory, right? So Oprah, when she was a child, she had to sleep outside on her family's porch because she wasn't deemed as beautiful. Can you imagine what that was like from her formative years to take in those negative messages? At some point, she had to say, I'm not taking in that negative message. I'm going to rise above what I've been through. Ariana Huffington of the Huffington Post, right? She had to step out and say, hey, I'm going to start my own multimedia conglomerate, and this is how I'm going to do it. We look at Maya Angelou and we say, oh, wow, we remember the Still I Rise, but we don't remember that when she was 4, she suffered a horrible rape that left her speechless for many years. But it took someone to step in and kind of create that interruption for her to actually say, you know what, I need to change. So when I think about all of this, sometimes people talk to me, and this image, if you're on the phone, I have an image here of me sitting on the steps here in Boston, but an affirmation is right next to me, an affirmation that I created. So one of the first things we can think about is that when we are ready to change, affirmations are a wonderful way to kind of stamp where you would like to be, even if you don't feel it. So back in the day, I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't have clarity or vision. And I remembered creating this affirmation. And this affirmation says, I am delivered from scattered thinking. My yes will be yes, and my no will be no. I will not be cowardly unsettled by situations, family, or friends. I will love my skin, my feet to dance, my cheeks of splendor. Your best is in me. I will never wrestle after consulting you. And close ones who remind me of my past have no place in my newness. Wow. And then the rest of that says, though at times I have fallen, I will continually stand. Wow. I remember when I first said that, I didn't really believe it. I didn't really have the strong confidence, but I knew that with time, if I kept saying it and I memorized it, that it would mean something to me. And now when I go and present anywhere and I share that piece, there's always a standing ovation, or there's always a woman there with a tear in her eye saying, oh my gosh, I really needed that affirmation. And so remember, you can even create your own personal affirmation. And I would challenge you to do that. Create your own affirmation. Wherever you are at this present time, think about who you would like to be. Some of you are trying to get your master's, your PhD. I don't know what you're working on. Some of you are working with the community and you really want to galvanize young people. Some of you have a new transition in your life that you're working towards. Well, whatever it is, you can create your personal affirmation. So I'm going to give you some tips if you want to create your own personal affirmation. The first one is you can start off by saying, I am someone who is, and then you would actually fill in the blank. I'm someone who is, and so let's say that you wanted to finish, I don't know, a project in the community. I'm someone who is galvanizing young people to move forward. And then number two, you can say, I am someone who believes. So if you don't believe it about yourself, you can make a statement as though you did. I am someone who believes that I will be financially free in the next 3 years. Number three, I am someone who will make the decision to, and what decision could you possibly make tonight that would galvanize you to move in the given area that you're desperately seeking? So again, I'm not the only example of someone who can create an affirmation and then use it to subconsciously move me to a new direction, because you can do the very same thing. So even if you're not at that goal yet, you can create an affirmation. Now, studies have been shown that affirmations are really great at helping people to paint pictures of where they want to be. So like I like to think of it as designing your future. So I don't know where you are in your personal life, but you can design your own future by simply creating an affirmation. So the next piece of this is upgrading my life. So we've talked about showing up for self, and we've gone through that. And the next piece I want you to think about is to pinpoint your focal point. So where are you when it comes to this goal that you said, hey, I want to reach this goal? Like, where are you in that? Are you just at the beginning? Are you midway and you just kind of need a little kick in the rear to continue? Or are you someone that's kind of accomplished and you need to think even bigger and broader? You really want to think about that. And then I would like to say, determine your wake-up call. Maybe tonight is that moment of interruption where you're like, you know what, that's it. This is my wake-up call. I need to do something, because you know what, comfort is so tricky, right? We all love this idea of, if we could just take a pill that would give us life balance and allow us to be fit and healthy, we would, while we watched all of our wonderful movies and TV shows. But let's just be real about it. That's not how it works, right? We have to make conscious decisions on a day-to-day basis in order for us to make true change. So how do you establish a focal point? How do you figure out where you want to go? I'm going to give you 4 steps for this. Number 1, you want to set your priorities, right? So for every priority you said you wanted to create, you got to think, you've got to put a time frame next to it. I always say be bold and pick a launch date, of when you're actually going to complete that activity that will lead you towards your new goal. The number two, put a demand on your priorities, right? So just like you put an important date when you have a doctor's visit, put that date with a pink sticky that indicates, hey, this is me, this is my moment, and this is my time. Put a demand on it because you deserve it. One of the things that I would always tell the woman that I speak to is to think about 5-star hotels. And when you go to the Ritz or any of these 5-star hotels, you have a certain expectation in mind as to how the hotel should treat you. Why? Because you're paying a premium price for the value. And not only that, but you're expecting that they serve you in that way. Now, if you operate with your own self, with your time and everything else, like you are 5-star, you will be so shocked at how people react to that. Some people will be like, oh my gosh, who does she think she is? She thinks she's something. Yes, you do. You do think you're something. And today, I want you to put a demand on your own personal priority. Get out your calendar, put it there, put the demand on the very goals that you have. Number 3, pinpoint milestones in a 28 to 40 day window. So when you look at a calendar, I want you to kind of pinpoint what are these milestones that you would like to meet. And number 4, you definitely need to have some accountability. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my story. If you're looking at the slide or you're looking at it later, I have a picture of me talking right when I completed my doctorate. It was a really rigorous time. You can email me later about details. But also around this time, I created my first self-help book, Tomorrow Can't Wait. And you know, at this point in my life, everything was difficult. I was teaching a full schedule. I still had my dreams in mind. I had you know, you have these moments where you have to figure out what's important to you. So I couldn't go everywhere. I couldn't go to every meeting. I couldn't hang out with everyone because I had to decide what was important for me and my future. And in this moment, I was kind of thinking about all these things I had gone through in my life. And then I just heard this thought, you know, Allana, would you really be happy if you only had 120 days to live? Like, you complain about this, you're upset about that, you don't feel like you reached this goal, it's taking you too long to complete your program, you know, all these questions I had. And I just was thinking about rolling it over in my head until all of a sudden, I just paused and I heard this nudge that said, you know, yes, these things have happened to you, but why are you wasting all of this time worrying about what has not happened or worrying about what did happen instead of spending it thinking about the ways that you can move forward in your life, instead of using your gifts? So a lot of the years I had spent teaching, but I knew that I wanted to be an author. I knew I wanted to speak. I knew I wanted to start my own company. Unfortunately, I let a lot of the naysayers kind of incubate within me, and it took me a long time before I recognized, you know what, I do know what I want to do. But unfortunately, a lot of us suffer from self-doubt, paralysis of analysis, or we look at our setbacks and we're like, oh, I tried that 10 years ago, it didn't work, or these relationships didn't work, so why should I try? And I personally had a lot of quote unquote, what if moments. But then all of that changed once I recognized how much time I had wasted and how much time I was hiding my precious gems of my talents and my writing. So you know what I did? I made a bold decision. I woke up the very next day, drove to Starbucks, and started writing my first book. A lot of times we think that if we keep waiting for the right time, that we'll have if we keep waiting for the proper time and everything is perfect, then we'll be happy, or then we'll be ready to go. Well, that never happens. You'll never feel like it's the proper time to get things going. There always will be some kind of challenge or hurdle that will be staring you in the face, let alone the people that you don't need to be listening to at the time. So if I could change my own life drastically, and I'm telling you, I'm doing today what I always wanted to do. There's nothing more wonderful than to wake up feeling like your life is full of purpose and full of rigor and just full of excitement. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I have my tired days, but there's nothing more like waking up on fire, ready to go. So I hope that when you think about your personal goals, You don't just say, oh, well, Dr. D inspires, she, everything for her went perfectly. No, there's still hurdles that I'm working on. However, I was able to make a courageous step, just one little step to say, hey, this is one area in my life that I would like to change. I would like to start my own business. I want to be an author. I want to use my gifts as an artist, as well as continue to educate and inspire the students that I presently do. So I hope that my story definitely encourages you. And so here's another tip. I call this slide my moment defined. So here are some things I'd like you to do in the next 28 days. I'm actually giving you some homework. The first one is to set your prioritized goal. So what is it? What is your prioritized goal? Think about your mini milestones that we talked about earlier and create a calendar of benchmarks. So what are the benchmarks that's going to let you know that you're reaching your goals? So for example, if you said, I want to eat healthier, then a mini benchmark would be for the next 28 days, I'm going to eat salad on Friday. You see, I'm not telling you to make a big goal and to lie to you and tell you, hey, you're going to reach this goal in 30 days. No, but if you take a little step every single day, a calculated step every single day, you'll be surprised at what happens. And don't let anything stop you from reaching that mini milestone. And the other piece that you want to think about is to enroll in specific trainings that will help you with the specified outcome. You know what? If you waste your time watching romantic novels, but your goal is to start your own company or to be an author, you could actually use that same amount of time that you spend on those movies and on those shows actually working on your first outline or thinking about creating the right proper relationships that will help you to actually move forward. All right. Now, I've given you so much information, and we're almost going to open up for questions in about 20 more minutes. So let me continue here. If you're listening to this, the next slide says action. When I thought about upgrading my personal life, I said, oh my gosh, I can't do the same things I've been doing. I really got to be bold and dare to be truthful to myself. So the first thing is you have to tell the truth to yourself. One of the first things I give to all of my coaching clients is this activity where I ask you to write yourself as though you were a child, like remembering your real self as a child. Write yourself a letter to the present person that you are. What would that letter say? It's funny how we're like, well, I'm an adult now, so I don't need to remind myself about how I was as a child. But there's something special about when you were a child, how you were able to think big and think creatively. I always use the example that when you tell kids to go outside and play at the park, they never tell you, oh, can I only play in this tiny room? They go, oh, we're going to the park, and they enjoy every single thing at the park. You know what? That can be the same idea that you can have about your personal or professional goals. You know what? If you have certain goals to finish your program, think beyond that. What are you going to do after your program is done? What are going to be the takeaways? How are you going to serve those you intend to serve? Think bigger and broader. A lot of times when I ask my graduate learners to do this, their goals are still too small to me. And I say, well, that's good, but what are you going to contribute in your discipline? And so you want to think about all of that. Now, if you want to take real action, here are some steps that you can do. And some of these I've mentioned a little earlier. Now, the first one, I call it a friendship analysis. Take a list, take a piece of paper, and jot down the main friends that you talk to on a day-to-day basis, and look at how much time you spend with each friend. Now, in my book, Tomorrow Can't Wait, I talk a little bit about how it's time for you to discern whether or not you need to pull out weeds in terms of healthy relationships or build time with those relationships that are nurturing to you. So it's important that you do a friendship analysis. See who are the people that you need to spend more time with. If they are individuals that maybe are 2 steps ahead of you, maybe they have a lot of habits that you like, or maybe there's some area in their life that you really admire. Really, instead of just talking surface, maybe you can ask them, hey, I'd like to spend some time asking you questions about this particular area. A lot of times people are afraid to do that, but hopefully if you have a good friend, they wouldn't mind sharing with you some of their insights. Also, I also would caution you to think about those friends who are indifferent. Now, this is a tricky category because indifferent friends are not necessarily bad friends, but they're neither positive towards your goals and they're not necessarily negative. They're just in the middle. And sometimes you need to pause these kinds of relationships that are not necessarily bringing you anywhere, right? You can do so much in 60 minutes with the right relationship than you could with a fuzzy relationship. So if you're ready to move forward, start thinking about the kinds of people or the kinds of environments you actually want to find yourself in. You'll be shocked once you do your friendship analysis to see where your time is going. And you'll also be challenged to take a pause on certain relationships that are not bringing you anywhere. Third point, and then the next point, create your affirmation. We went over that already, so I would just challenge you to go ahead and begin that affirmation. Third, you got to think this through. What is your why? And so in the slide, it says my why. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you burnt out every night? What is your why? Is it because you grew up in poverty and now it's your time to kind of say, hey, I'm going to be a business owner? Or you suffered something and then you triumphed over it and now you want to offer that to someone else? I'm not sure what your goals are, but think about your why. So the next 3 things below this slide says habit 1. I want you to write down what is one habit that you can take that will help you to move forward. What's one habit you can take that will help you to move forward? Number 2, what's another habit you can take that you can move forward with? And then number 3, think about a third habit. So I want you to start thinking about some habits you need to create in order to get to your anticipated outcome. Maybe one of the habits you need is to simply say no. I need to say no. I can't always take on everything. Habit 2, spending time with yourself. Having quiet time is essential for gaining clarity around your goals. And number 3, maybe you need to take a bold step. I mean, a really bold step and say, hey, no, I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to write my first book. And these are the topics that I'm going to talk about. So be bold. Write down 3 habits that you can take. Now, I know many of you are on the phone, so you can't see this action plan calendar that I have here. But this is just a sample of what an action plan calendar can look like. Now, with my book, the Women Build Confidence Coaching book, this calendar is talked about in the book. And I would encourage you to kind of think about, those goals of creating those benchmarks between 28 to 90 days. What are the actions you can take week by week by week? And it's not always huge actions. It's just taking small steps along the way. All right, so you might be thinking, well, what are some of the resources that I can take to learn more about, what Dr. D is talking about? So I have a number of products, Women Build Confidence, and that's just kind of like giving you more tools, but it's a video online course that you can actually take where you can take it on your own time and kind of be accountable to that. And if you're someone who has a business or you're trying to learn how to strengthen your presentation, you can take some of my public speaking courses on Udemy. So just go to udemy.com and you can find that information. And again, I have books, Tomorrow Can't Wait, Chronicles of a Poet, Women Build Confidence, Digital Training, and I Lost My Job. Now, lastly, before I open this up for questions, I'm having a complete coaching program starting on January 11th that is valued at $150, but tonight and until I think it's the first week of January, I'm offering it for $75. So it's a 5-week program where you and I will work specifically on your actual goals. So it's going to be you and a group of other people working on the goals, but I actually give each of you specific assignments and I actually look over your assignments. So it's a really great tool if you said, hey, I need to take action. I need to move on. I need to move forward. I want to learn more and I need to be accountable, then that's for you. But then sometimes some people need solo coaching. And I'm giving away a special tonight, which is valued at $200 for only $57. So for 1 hour, you can chat with me specifically about some of these things we've talked about, and I'll actually help you to work out a plan and help you work out step by step what you can do to actually move forward in your life. And then tonight, I just want to remind you about our notes. So you want to think about daring to dream. You want to dream really big. Number 2, you want to make a real commitment to change a given area in your life and revisit your circle. Don't be afraid to really be truthful when you do that friend analysis. Also, remove every weight that is stopping you from moving forward in your given area. Remember that change equals process. So if you don't take any of these steps and you don't actually create any actions, you'll be still where you're at right now. But I challenge you, even if you don't get the coaching, at least implement what I'm saying tonight and you'll be amazed. Now, for me, one of the biggest things that's a plus for me is when women contact me 3, 4, 5 months, even 2 years later to say, hey, I actually enjoyed, learning and growing with you. And this is the result of how my personal life or my professional life has changed. It's amazing to see that. So I hope that you would continue to join me on the journey, as we have so many free resources for you to actually also be a part of. So if you're not already a part of my private Women Build Confidence coaching group, be a part of that. We meet every other Saturday and we talk about themes relative to my book. And as I said before, with the Dr. D Inspire page, we also share live streams there. But because this is your personal time now, I'm going to actually unmute everyone so that you can kind of talk and give me your takeaways from today, because I know I said a whole bunch. So the rest of our time is really for you. So let me just hear back. How many of you, you're unmuted, so just one at a time. What were your questions or thoughts or insights from tonight's webinar? Would anyone like to speak?
So Tiella here. Hey, Allana.
Hey, Tiella. Thank you so much for streaming in.
No, thank you for having this. I think this comes at a pivotal time in my life. So definitely thinking about, my focal point, those top 4 keys of set my priorities, demand on my priorities, pinpoint milestones, and accountability. I recently joined a mastermind group of women who are entrepreneurs, and I want to be an entrepreneur. And the writing, like everything you're doing, I'm laughing. I'm like, wow, I'm laughing. I'm manifesting. Tiella, you're already doing this. Like, this is great. And being able to overcome my obstacles, and not hold myself back. So I really appreciate just having a layout, because I think I'm a layout person and I need that. But taking action is one of the places where I get stuck at. And I know I've been checking my self-sabotaging. So if I'm saying something to myself that is not appropriate, to check that and know that that thought is not real. And so everything tonight was just perfect for me.
Oh, excellent. And I'm looking forward to, and I haven't talked about it, but one of the things that I'll be doing nationally and locally is helping entrepreneurs make thousands. Yes, I did say that. Yes, I want to help entrepreneurs make thousands with their gifts, because, unfortunately, I realize that, some people just need that extra push. Some people are already know what they want to do. So it's kind of like taking what they already know and making it more tangible, so that when they present it to the marketplace, it's actually presented in a very professional manner. So I'm excited for you, and I hope that you just continue following as you have. And it's always exciting to see you at all the different things that I've done. So thank you for following and being a part. I do appreciate it. And stay tuned with everything else. But I'm glad that it was really useful for you.
Yay.
You're welcome. All right. Anyone else want to share what highlights they have from tonight's meeting?
Well, this is Shannon.
Hey, Shannon.
And hey, I just want to say I enjoyed this. I actually used to be a part of a group in Atlanta it was just a small group of friends called Four Streams, where we kind of got together and discussed what our goals were and just the importance of developing more, it doesn't necessarily have to be 4 streams of income, but definitely more than one, especially if you work in corporate America. And we held each other accountable. So like you said, and the group is no longer meeting or whatever, but this reminded me of this because you hit on something very important, which is something that I used to not do. And I think that it stalled me a little bit or sabotaged me, is creating small goals to get to accomplish the bigger goals and to actually get towards that dream. I'm one, and Allana, you've known me for a while, from back in the day, working together. And, you know, during that time and knowing you, I had completed a master's and actually 2 concentrations, but I never actually really celebrated the accomplishment of doing those things. It was always, okay, well, this is where I want to be and I'm not there yet. So you're definitely right about that. And I've learned that over the past few years about myself. And what I've started doing is not beating myself up for not being where it is that I envisioned myself being, you know, however long ago, but actually learning that this is a journey and things change, and, you know, my path may not necessarily be someone else's path, but it's still a path the same, you know, and I'm going to get there. So what helps me is doing my vision board every year and doing small goals. Like you said, you know, whether it's, okay, I do want to start a business, but hey, I first need to straighten out my credit. That's an accomplishment. You know, that's a real accomplishment to getting to where you're trying to go, because when you're doing being an entrepreneur and you're trying to get this business credit, as a new business person or entrepreneur, they're looking at personal credit first. It's not just coming off of business credit because you don't have enough. So you do have to straighten your credit before you get on that train of being successful financially to support your business. So, you know, even though it may sound like it's small, but it's something, you know, hey, whether it's, okay, every 3 months, I'm going to pay off 1 bill. I'm going to start with the smaller ones and I'm going to work my way up. Those are accomplishments. And again, I used to never, you know, all I was looking at is I wasn't where I wanted to be. You understand what I'm saying? So you hit the nail on the head by saying, you know, create these smaller goals for yourself. You don't have to do everything at once. So I appreciate you giving that to me again, because oftentimes, you know, I feel like I'm an octopus and I have to do everything for everyone. I forget that.
Well, you did you know, for all of us when we were there. I still remember that. I remember how we just rely on you for everything. And I was like, oh, they always look so busy in there. But
yeah, but you know, I just have to remember that, you know, I'm a work in progress, in process, and I am moving forward. I'm not stagnant. I'm moving. It may be slower, but I'm moving. So hopefully anyone else that feels like me, you know, stuck, or, you know, feel that they may be stuck, maybe take the time to reevaluate what you've actually accomplished over the past few months. And then you can kind of, you know, bask in that a little bit and help get your motivation wheels moving again and, you know, start accomplishing some bigger goals.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And LGX, I know that she put a comment in the chat, and she basically says she's agreed with everything that has been said. One moment, let me just see if she can, let's see. Yeah, she's agreed with everything that was said, and she needs help to start one thing, and she has so many areas where nothing gets finished. So basically, she has so many things that she'd like to complete, but that, okay, she's waving. Give me 1 second. Let's see what like 1 second, guys. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. So she's saying that she can't hear, but but anyhow, so let me just give her a message. Okay, so she's saying that, sometimes she's so overwhelmed that she can't complete anything. And it's kind of like what Shannon kind of talked about or piggybacked on, which is that, yeah, you know what, we can trug a lug forward, but let's just try to choose one goal that we want to fix and not 20 gazillion goals. Sometimes when I'm meeting with people, they'll have, like, I'll say, which part of your life are we going to be focusing on? And they're like, well, everything. And I'm like, well, we can't fix everything. So we can only really realistically pick one area and then focus on that. And that can be taken in any, in any industry, really. So Shannon, I did have a question though, like, what did you have a specific goal that you are working towards?
You said me,
Mm-hmm. Shannon?
Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of goals that I'm working towards, but my most immediate goal, and I kind of shared this with you a few weeks back, is I have been feeling very stuck and not motivated in this dissertation process for this PhD. So I actually just started another quarter, and I actually posted probably about 2 hours ago before getting on this call that I think that I was getting in my own way, and the feedback that I was receiving, I really wasn't receiving it with a sane mind or an open mind, because it just seemed I just wasn't hearing I was on the road to moving to the next step. And I didn't take the time to, and I think it was just I've had personally like a lot of things going on, and I let all of that like cloud a lot of things. So one of my goals right now is to every single day accomplish something towards my dissertation, whether it's, hey, pulling up 2 articles a day or research, reading through them, jotting down something that comes to mind, just whatever. My goal is to accomplish something and actually start hitting these weekly goals so I can move forward, because I'm over it and I'm ready to move forward.
Well, I've got a couple, because you guys are on and we're not flooded, thank goodness, tonight. So Shannon, I got a story just for you. This story is just for you because of what you're talking about, right? So and then I have one for Tiela and I have one for LG. So for you, Shannon, I know where you've been because obviously, I was working on my program as well. And I'll tell you the story. So I was working on my dissertation, and for about, for about two years longer than I had intended. And I'll just put it this way. So I'm working on this work, and I get up to 90 pages of research. And when I get to that point, then my whole dissertation committee says, hey, you know what? Why don't you just start all over? And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Like,
oh my gosh.
This took me like time, money, this is not easy. And so, I'm sure you can understand, because I was writing, I had papers everywhere, I was crying, and then finally, I said, you know what, they're not going to let me move forward. So I literally had to throw every single thing away. And I remember that. I remember feeling like, gosh, this is taking way too long. And one of the best things that I had was a mentor. She had already completed her program, and she said, Allana, I want you to write your name and put PhD next to it and put that right in front of you. So as you're working, you can always see that, and it'll subconsciously help you to get more towards your goal. So I said, okay. And so I remember doing that, thinking, one of these days. And so I started rewriting. I actually switched some people on my committee, because I realized that there were some people on my committee that weren't helping me to move forward in the way that I needed it to be. And I just got really clear about my goals. And one of the biggest things that helped was writing beyond what they were telling me to do. And that saved me a lot of time. So I think you're on the right track. And it's just a matter of just kind of like you said, just kind of like, okay, no, I'm going to be done. And actually asking them about the feedback, and making sure that all the answers you get are the clearest they can possibly be. So I hope that helps you.
That does, because I was feeling so alone in this process, and I'm seeing people in my seminars moving forward, and I'm like, oh God, why am I stuck? And I think that didn't help. But you're very right about that. I just have to, say, look, this is a personal goal, and I can't let anything stop me from achieving it. So, gotta hit those hurdles.
Yes, got to hit those hurdles. And Tiala, what's one goal you set for yourself you definitely want to focus on?
Oh my goodness. Right now, one of my biggest things is defining my mission statement. So I have my business, Immense Expression Creative Consulting, and my mission statement is so out of whack right now. So I think when I first had the idea 4 years ago, it worked, but now I think I'm grown past it, and so I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, what is it that I know what I want to do, but I can't figure out how to define what it is I want to do in a way that would be branding smart, in a way that would be, receptible. So that's my struggle right now. It's just like I'm in this rebranding phase, trying to figure out, and maybe doing that will help me to define my services and put some monetary numbers next to things without feeling so dang on scared and nervous about it. Like, is this right? So that's where I'm at.
I think sometimes because when we're going into business or we're trying to craft our business, we think about that sleazy salesman with his hair gel back, and we're like, I'm not going to be like that person. But whatever, my first questions, or to help you clarify more, is who are the people that will lose out if they don't get to benefit from your service? So when you think about it that way, who's not going to benefit if you were not able to offer whatever the services that you are crafting? And then be just kind of, since you're artistic already, picture those individuals that you say you want to help. And then just, if I were you, kind of pretend you were talking to that person about why they needed your service. And from that brainstorm, you can really come up with a lot of different mantras as to how to pitch what you're doing, or how to define what you're doing with a little more clarity. But I know it can be confusing first. I know it took me, and I want to say, look, it really took me about 2 years before I really knew what I wanted to really focus on. So a lot of times it can be overwhelming to kind of narrow where you want to go, but the more you kind of hash that out, the clearer you're going to be. So it's kind of like, okay, well, when I think about my heart muscles, who really comes to mind? And that's usually the people or the industry that, you really want to help. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. And my heart tugs in two ways.
Oh boy. So it's like
it's youth and women. It's youth and young women. Like it's like a bracket between like 18 and 35. So it's like, 11 and 35. So I want to be able to work with younger populations, but I'm also doing work with like college age, young women. And it's like, that's where I thrive in both of those, whether I'm working with urban youth or I'm working with young women. They're all young, color, but it's just like, I don't know. I don't know. I'll get it.
I hear you. Yes, you will get it, because both of those markets are really important. So yes, it sounds like you just need to figure out which one to focus on, at least for now. LGX, I know that you're listening there, and you can't respond, but you can hear me and you can see me. So she says, life has been hard, but it won't stop me. Yet I will still do the work. Goals are written with deadlines now. And so, yes, I can tell you, LGX, that I hear you, and life gets hard for all of us. And so sometimes we have to just say, you know what, it doesn't feel like it can happen. My change can still happen, and put a deadline and a date next to those specific goals that you say you want to reach. Not only that, but it's important for everyone to be, whether it's my tribe or another tribe that you're part of, it's always great to be part of a community of women that are going to applaud you, because we don't have all night to talk about how we have so many haters and why it's important that we are surrounded by people that actually will applaud us while we're working towards our given goals. So I just do want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in, and also want to thank those of you who will check this recording later, that whatever your goals may be, you can continue to think that you're just at the tip of the iceberg of who you can possibly become. I want to thank you so much for being a part of this webinar, and also invite you to follow me on Facebook, Dr. D Educates, as well as on Instagram, Dr. D Inspire with a Y. And I look forward to hearing and learning more about all of you. Again, if you're interested in any of the coaching products that I have or digital courses, please send me an email. If anything, let me know how this live stream went for you and what goals you're setting. And so I want to thank you all for tuning in, for being a part of this webinar. I had a blast. Thank you, everyone, and you guys have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.